Hello, my name's Jessica. I'm going to start in about 1 minute. Um, this is the Saturday mindfulness movement and breathwork session. I'm hoping you're all relatively comfortable and have somewhere, more than anything, somewhere that you can move quite freely. I'm just going to give people a little bit of a chance to arrive. Yeah, I can see a few people arriving. Just letting people know that the session's being recorded, and that's why cameras are off, but also because I generally find it quite useful for you to be able to just receive, just go along and do what do what you're seeing me do on the screen, as much as feels comfortable and safe for you and your body and your mind right now, without without feeling like you're being looked at or seen, which is sometimes lovely, but sometimes I think it's quite nice to just be in your own space and explore what's happening in your body, in your mind, in your nervous system. So today's session is exploring the fight response. So last week we looked at the flight response, and we've got fight, flight, and freeze as some of our really primary responses to stress. And the world is exceptionally stressful for everybody. And even at the best of times, it's really normal and human to move through these stress responses throughout any given day. So when I'm talking about the fight response, I'm talking about a part of the nervous system that kicks in when we feel stressed sometimes, and for some people. And so it will look, it's quite fast, it's quite hot, the heart rate tends to go up a little bit, we tend to be quite tense. We're looking at feelings like anger, or irritation, or just finding everything really annoying. I think for me, it's that moment where I drop my keys and I swear as if the keys fell out of my hand on purpose. It's that kind of energy. It's quite difficult to think in any of those states. So whether we're in a flight state and feeling really anxious, or in a freeze state and feeling really kind of dropped in and down, which we'll look at next Saturday, whatever sort of stress response we're having, it can be quite difficult to think clearly and be present in the moment. And so what we're going to kind of look at today is movement and breathing and mindfulness techniques that might be useful for you, to kind of take away with you, and maybe kind of use next time you're feeling this kind of sense of annoyance and agitation and anger, which is a really normal, healthy response to stress. But sometimes it isn't comfortable, or we're getting cross with friends and family and colleagues, in ways that don't really feel very useful, or just even just cross with ourselves in ways that don't feel very useful. So that's the kind of fight response in the body. And often what we think, my sense is often what happens is we think we need to calm down. And so we think we need to do something really slow and really gentle, and maybe try some slow breathing and mindfulness. And I think generally, actually, what we need first is a kind of a release. Yeah. So if you stand up and just check that you've got space around you, yeah, so that you can move kind of your arms out, like this is the kind of space that you're going to want, yeah. And before we do anything, always just thinking about when we're standing, your feet are quite wide apart. You know, we're not doing balancing, we're not doing anything particular kind of exercisey or yoga-y. So just place your feet where you feel like, yeah, this feels secure. I can move around from left to right foot. Just give that a go maybe, and just check that, yeah, that's comfortable, and I can feel my feet in the ground. And maybe as well, just moving to the toes and to the heels. Nothing major. We're not looking for big balancing, or not looking for you to need to use any muscles in your body. In fact, we're kind of looking for a little bit of a bend in the knees, that the pelvis is facing down. So we're not standing like this, but we're not also, we're nice and faced down. Yeah. And just kind of, seeing if we can be as relaxed as possible. You might be really tense, and that's okay. Don't worry too much about that. But just if you can get your feet placed nicely, knees bent, pelvis down, and we'll start from that position. Yeah. So the first thing that we're going to do today is a qigong movement, and it's an arm swing. And I'm going to ask you to be really mindful that your knees aren't moving around, because that's a place where we can kind of injure ourselves. So the hips and the knees are solid and facing forward, and the arms are very loose and they're swinging. and you're facing forward. Now, once you've kind of got this sense of a swing and your arms kind of are floppy, like I always think of it as like spaghetti arms. Yeah, so there's a little bounce in the knees maybe, and the arms are swinging, but they're free. They're not. We're not moving them like this. Yeah, they're free. They're floppy. So it's the movement. The swing is actually coming from the torso and the shoulders, and the arms are nice and free. And you're facing forward with your knees and your hips and your head, and the swing is through the shoulders and the spine. And we're just starting to release a bit of that energy. So one of the places that you're probably going to get really tense when you're feeling agitated and annoyed is around the shoulders and through the chest. And it might not be noticeable, but it's often there. So we're just letting the hands kind of flop. They're flopping. They're kind of back of the hand is kind of whacking onto the lower back, but gently. You know, you're not hitting yourself. You're not hurting yourself. Okay? So just letting the arms go. And we're going to start to see if we can breathe out through the mouth. So we're breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And you'll hear that I'm going to do quite noisy breathing. If that's breathing that you know from yoga or you just like to have a go today, then have a go at that. Okay? So we're keeping this swing going. Okay? Nice and loose in the arms. How loose and comfortable can this be? Keeping the knees facing forward, the head is up. You know, we're not hitting the chin back or really down. The head is faced forward. And the shoulders are nice and loose. Don't do anything that hurts. Never do anything that hurts. If it hurts, make it smaller. Make it here. Yeah, still loose arms, but just make it smaller. So go big if that feels lovely, but don't go big if it feels uncomfortable or painful. Or in fact, don't go big if it feels like going big is making the shoulders do anything, you know, tense or tight. Make the movement slower. Nice out breath through the mouth. Might be short at this point, that's fine, don't worry about it. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. So this is quite a nice thing to start with if you're feeling a bit annoyed and agitated, and it's almost like you're kind of throwing stuff off. Throwing off all the things that are incredibly annoying, angering, even rageful. You know, the world is in quite a state at the moment. We're all struggling in our own personal way. So just maybe throwing that off, you know, letting that go, throwing that off, and it can't change what's happening in your life outside of this moment, but just giving your body a bit of respite from the tension that the fight state can build is valid and necessary. Giving ourselves a bit of respite, a bit of a break from those stress states. And in a moment, we're going to start to slow the arms down. You kind of imagine like an engine, you know, kind of going off. And just slowly, the arms kind of, just let them be floppy there. Notice what's happening in your arms and hands. Keeping that bend in the knee. But just noticing what's happening in the arms and the hands, just for a moment. We're just going to do a little breath, just 2 or 3 times. And the breath, you might, if you've done anything with me before, know now, it's inhale halfway through there's a brief hold. You finish the rest of the inhale and you sigh out. So it looks like this. Let's just do 2 or 3 of those. One more. And now, again, just really making sure again that your feet are placed in a place that feels really nice and solid for the rest of your body. We're going to bounce on the knees. And again, the intention here, my voice is going to get all kind of wobbly, is to bounce the top of the body. Like when you're a kid and you jiggle and you enjoy that out sound. So when you're a kid, it's something like, you enjoy that as a kid, and we don't often enjoy this kind of movement as an adult. And this is another reason why it's probably nice to have your camera off. I'm hoping that you're somewhere relatively private and you can just have a little shake. You can really wanting the top of the body from the kind of hips up to be as loose as possible. So try not to tense up the belly. Let it be big and out and relaxed, you know? And if you kind of just keep going, just keep bouncing, yeah? But seeing if you can kind of feel that shake as high up as possible. Can you feel it in your shoulders? Can you even feel it in your face? If you really let your mouth even open slightly. The bounce is coming in the push from the floor. It's not, the work isn't in the torso. There's a bounce in the knees. And if your knees are struggling, you might kind of do it a little bit more gently, but you can still feel that bounce through the body. Some days my knees feel a bit stiff or a bit sore, and I just like to kind of bounce almost a bit bigger bouncing, but still the top of the body is loose, you know? I'm not really even moving my hands much. They're just kind of doing that, you know? So still that breathing is in through the nose and we're sighing it all out through the mouth. All the little and big things that might be making our days quite annoying and irritating. And it might not be the energy that you're with right now, but just kind of knowing that this is available to you. You can stand up from your desk anytime, find somewhere as secluded and private as you can, and just shake, shake. And you're shaking your muscles, but you're also shaking the fascia, which is the connective tissue underneath the muscle. So when we shake for 2 or 3 minutes like this, the fascia starts to release. And the fascia is also a place that a lot of tension builds up, and we might do really long stretches like in yin yoga and things, but the fascia often remains tense, shaking, you know, really shaking. You might give your hands a bit more of a shake now. So kind of, you know, really intentionally shaking your hands out a little bit. Yeah, and don't worry too much about the silly stuff. You know, we can think, oh, this is really silly. This feels really silly. Really, just see if you can enjoy that movement a little bit, like you would have done when you were a kid. And in a minute, in a moment, we're going to stop, but let me stop first, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to stop this movement. Okay, so you keep going, you keep bouncing, shaking, loose shoulders, loose face, loose belly. And I'm going to take a deep breath in, and when I stop, I'm going to stop like this. So you try that. Deep breath in. We blow out all the air. And again, like with the arm swing, we're just going to stay still for a moment. Maybe even close your eyes if you like closing your eyes. I don't always like closing my eyes. Sometimes it gives you the ability to focus in a bit more. Sometimes it just makes everything feel a bit overwhelming. But taking your attention into your hand and all that shaking and jiggling, likely there might be a nice little buzzing sort of feeling in the hand. And just carrying on, because we're going to spend a little bit more time than I might normally standing, because I think anger and flight, it has a real energy to it that we might still be thinking, no, I'm not grounded. I'm feeling really, you know, tense and flighty. So the next thing that we're going to do, still standing, still in that position that feels really comfortable and grounded for you on your feet. Yeah, you can move easily, and it doesn't feel difficult. You're going to take the pads of your fingers. So the pads of your fingers are these bits, and the tips of your fingers are the ends. Okay, and then you've got the whole palm. And you've got what I'll call a loose palm, which looks like this, not like this, just like this. So these are the different sort of hand positions I'm going to mention. So with the pads of your fingers, you're going to tap the top of your head, just tapping the top of your head. Now, you might tap quite fast because that feels nice. I quite, for today, I like slow. But it's really personal. It's just tapping the crown of the head. And then you're going to move down the back of the skull. And you're going to move backwards and forwards, back of the skull to the back of the ears. You might use the tips or the pads, but this is all gentle. Nothing should hurt. Nothing should feel really too loud inside the head. You can hear it, but it's gentle. Then you're going to move to the back of the neck. And I mean, I'm kind of bouncing still a little bit. I think after the shake, it sort of feels like that movement's still there, and it might be for you and it might not be. So then you're going to come down onto the shoulders and you're going to do the surface of your fingers there. And then you're going to come forward to the chest. Whoops, I think I'm banged my mic, sorry. So this spot in particular is great if you're somewhere and you just want to have a quick tap. This is quite a nice one. Lots of nerve endings underneath the collarbone. So then you're going to take the palm of your hand and you're going to pat down the top of the arm, down the back of the hand. You're going to turn your hand over and pat your palm, your wrist, your inner arm, inside of your elbow, and back up to the shoulder. Give your armpit a little pat. Your lymphatic system travels in there, so it's quite nice. And then we're going to move to the other side. Down the arm, back of the hand, flip over onto the palm, the wrist, the inner arm, up. Give the armpit a little go. And then we're going to do, here at the bottom of the ribs, so wherever you can reach. I think I've got quite sort of relatively flexible shoulders, but you might be here, you might be on your waist, wherever you can reach with your hands. And it might be the back of the hands, or it might be those kind of loose fists. And you might just go up and down a little bit there. You might even bend forward slightly to kind of get into that lower back area. And that can feel quite nice. It's like, oh, there can be quite a lot of tension there. So just kind of giving that a bit of a knock. This should all feel comfortable. So coming with loose fists to the hips. We're going to go down the outside. So this is the loose fist, not fist. This is gentle. Really gentle on the knee, really gentle on the outside of the calf. And just loose fingers tapping the top of the feet. You can bend your knees, come down like this, however feels comfortable. Coming up the inside of the legs. And then just doing the front to the side, back up. And we're just going to do like little circles. And you're going to move from your right, not the way I'm mirrored, I don't think, over to your left and down and across, because that's the way digestion goes. And this is gentle. This is really like pat, pat. This is the kind of patting you might do if you were playing a game with a child, small child, little child. You would pat really gently. It feels just really, really gentle. Yeah. And then the last place we're going to tap is just with the fingertips. Again, this is incredibly gentle, just across the forehead and the eyebrows, temples, the pads of the fingers here. So gentle, you can only just feel it across the cheekbones, into the jaw. That can feel quite nice if there's a lot of tension there, that muscle around the jaw. Might open and close once or twice. And then just with one hand into the crease of the chin. And again, just noticing. You might feel like nothing, might feel some sensation in the hands, somewhere in the body. Just noticing that. And all the movement that we do today, even when we move from standing to sitting or sitting to lying, I'm going to ask if you can do it as mindfully as possible. And that word gets used a lot, but by mindfully, I just mean just notice what you're doing. Don't just plonk yourself down, but just notice if you're sitting, you might lean and put your hands on the floor. You might grab something to sit on. You might have a chair because that's more comfortable for you. You might sit with your legs crossed. You might sit on your knees, this kind of position. Some people really like that. I can only do that for a little while. So whatever feels comfortable, and sitting in a chair is also absolutely fine. And I would often do this sitting in a chair. This is what I have here to show you today. So the movement that we're going to do here in in yoga is thought of as cat-cow, so it's like a curl of the spine. But I'm going to get you to do it sort of relatively gently, okay? So this position, this is angry. This is, it might not be as noticeable as this, but somewhere our chest starts to come forward. Often our chin comes forward as well. This is the position, and it creates huge amounts of sort of tension through the shoulders, and the head is then being carried on these little muscles here as we sort of jut our chin forward. When we're stressed in that angry fight way, that's often what the body's doing, but trying to force it to kind of curl in is often sort of counterintuitive. So moving between the two, kind of placing your hand on your knees, whether you're kneeling or sitting in a chair, placing your hands on your knees. And when we breathe in, we're going to do the angry chest out, but we're going to tip the chin up slightly. This is a small movement, not as big as you have available to you. And when you curl in like this, you're going to breathe out through the mouth. So we're going to breathe in and out. Nice, noisy breath. You might slow it down a little bit. You might make the whole movement even smaller. You probably kind of almost can't see that I'm moving that much apart from my head. But my spine is still curving a little bit, just a little bit. So just breathing in and breathing out. We're starting to slow things down a little bit. Just starting to slow things down a little bit. We've kind of released a lot, shaking, swinging. Just starting to slow things down. And coming back to face, if you turn to the side with me, I hope you didn't actually. We're gonna do another little movement that kind of slows things down. And you can do this sitting or standing. You can do this whatever feels more comfortable. I quite like just sitting because now I feel like, oh, okay, I can slow down a little bit. I can ground, but you might not be ready for that. So you're going to breathe in through the nose as you raise your hands, and really be mindful of your shoulders. So there are days when my shoulders are a bit tight and maybe I only get here. But we're gonna go to wherever feels comfortable, and we're going to bring the hands down the front of the body. Okay, so we're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out. Breathing in and breathing out. And if you just have an imaginative way of being, you might like to kind of imagine that you're bringing the temperature down when we do this, sort of bringing the fast, hot, agitated temperature down. So just sort of imagine that your hands could kind of cool the temperature down. I'm just going to carry on like that for a few more breaths. And again, you might look down just to a foot or so in front of you. Maybe not look at the screen, because you're going to want to just slow things down to a pace that feels good and slow for you. So you might be slower than me, you might be a bit faster than I'm going, but just whatever feels good and slow for you. And when we move to laying in a few minutes, we're going to do a breathing technique that can be really slow for some people. So just starting to slow things down now, get a sense that when you slow your breathing, it isn't about taking in more oxygen or having more oxygen to release. It's about doing it more slowly, so slowing down the release of breath and slowing down the intake of breath. Just a couple more like this. Wherever you are, make this the last time you breathe out, bringing the hands down. Before we move again to laying down, I'm going to turn the head. And again, this isn't going to be the whole movement. Your whole movement would be sort of chin to shoulder. But we're just doing a little now. And we're drawing this line with the nose, the tip of the nose. And you can look from left to right across the horizon line of the room that you're in. Kind of not really picking out any detail, just maybe let the eyelids relax a little bit. So they're not closed and you're not looking through eyelashes as such. They're just kind of half open, lazy eyes. A couple more turns like that, left to right, scanning the horizon line. Very useful thing for the brain and the threat center. Then try it next time you go for a walk. Look to the horizon line and just scan from left to right. Does some really interesting things with the optic nerve and the threat center, the amygdala and the brain. So coming back to center, and then either closing or looking through eyelashes so that the world gets really blurry for a moment. Just going to draw a few tiny circles with the head, with the nose, with the tip of the nose. So the head's turning, but you're drawing a circle in the air with the tip of the nose. And these kind of concentrated movements in one little spot, quite useful for bringing our focus down when anger is often a very big, fiery energy. Starting by releasing and then coming down, so some really small movements can sort of really cool the energy down. Okay, so we're going to move to laying, and whenever I talk about laying, I will always say, think about where your head's going to be. Does it need a cushion? Does it just need, even just a thin blanket? But you don't want your head to be kind of flopping back, nor do you want it too high up. So the muscles in the back of your neck should feel kind of comfortable. You can even kind of lay down and check them. It's really nice to lay on a blanket if you've got one, or a big towel or a throw, anything like that. And another blanket or towel rolled up goes behind the knees. So not behind the thighs, but behind the knees. And this is just to make the lower back a little bit more comfortable. So if you kind of gather those things and make yourself as comfortable as possible laying down, and you can place the bolster for behind your knees to one side for now. And then I'm going to lay down with you for a moment, and then I'm going to sit back up and talk you through the breathing. So when you first lay down, just keeping the knees bent, checking out that the head is comfortable. If you need to give it a bit more height or a bit less, now is the time to do that. Bringing the feet to about sort of wider than your hips. And you're just gonna move your knees from left to right. And sort of letting the hips sway on the ground. So one buttock might come up as the other rolls into the floor, the hip rolls into the floor. Just sort of swaying. I think in yoga, people often talk about kind of windshield wipers, but you really don't need the knees to go very low. But this is just a moment to release a little bit of tension in the hips, where it does sometimes gather when we're really tense. And feeling irritated and agitated and angry, often our hips get really tense without us noticing. And just bringing that back to the center and to still. Bringing the arms up in front of you, so your fingers are pointing towards the ceiling and your palms are facing each other. And just reach up towards the ceiling and then let your shoulders go back down. And you might do that just a couple of times, and it's just to check that your shoulder blades are against the floor. And you can either put your hands together and keep your arms straight, or you can grab your elbow and you're just going to rock a tiny little bit. And again, just bringing the attention into one shoulder blade and lift maybe just an inch or two, maybe just a centimeter. And the other one presses into the floor. And you're just going to do that for a moment or two, just to release down. Again, agitation is often held in the hips of the shoulders. It can be really nice to just move them out a little bit. And then as you begin to let that go, you stay laying down. You can grab that blanket or towel that you're hopefully you've got next to you, and just put it under your knees. And if you're chilly, which you might get if you're laying down for a little while, you might place a blanket over you. And I would really encourage you to tuck that blanket around you, a bit like sort of, especially around your feet, like sort of swaddling a baby. And I'm going to talk you through a breathing technique, which a lot of people sort of see as it's a regulating breathing technique. So it's not something that we might do if we're feeling really panicky or anxious and our breath is all over the place. But it's something that practiced regularly, it really helps our nervous system and our heart rate to be steady and build some strength. So the more you practice kind of regulating breathing, the more your nervous system goes to a place of not fight, flight or freeze, but a place of kind of calm and relax. The more it can do it, the stronger it gets. It's like a muscle. You work out your calm muscle in your nervous system, then it gets stronger. It's quicker and easier to return to a place of calm after you felt a bit anxious or distressed or angry or floppy and hopeless. But we want to find ways to move back to feeling a bit steady and solid and present and calm, and exercising your nervous system muscle, that part of the nervous system, is kind of easiest done with breathing. So I wanted to teach this breathing technique, and I kind of feel like saying, don't worry too much if you don't get it right now. I've got a little free video on just this 6-second breathing on my website, and I can share that. But I just wanted to kind of have a go with you and see if you can start to kind of get a sense of this breathing. And I've got like a little beeping thing that's going to beep a time for you, okay? And some people find that annoying and some people like it, but it's really important to get the breath rate just right. And it is 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. That's it. You're going to try to breathe into the belly if you can. If that's not something that's available to you, or it feels very new to you, don't worry too much, but maybe place your hands on your belly for now. You're laying down, your head supported, something behind the knees, hands are on the belly, shoulders are relaxed down like they were when we had the hands. So maybe just lift them and drop them. Make sure the shoulders are relaxed down. You can always tuck up your blanket under your elbows a bit if that makes it easier to put your hands on your belly and be relaxed. Both of the breaths are going to be in and out through the nose. So we're going to breathe in for the count of 6 and out for the count of 6. If that starts to feel too long for you, it can be useful to start to lift one arm, elbow stays on the floor, like a timer. So start to move the arm to the count of 6, and then slowly you might be able to match your breathing to the moving arm. Okay, so maybe have a quick peek at the screen. You'll see if I were laying down, my arm would be doing this, like a little timer. Yeah, like a little arm. It is a little arm. Okay, so I'm going to press play on my little beep so you know what it sounds like. When it gets to 6, it's going to make a slightly sort of louder beep, and that's the changeover between in and out. Okay, so just starting in a moment with an in-breath. So in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep that going. Follow the beat of the timer. 6 in and 6 out. remember, if it's too long, start to just move the arm to the time. So the arm would move. And slowly the breathing might get slower. So it would be arm up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, arm lowers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In. And out. Just seeing if that air can reach down into the belly. And seeing maybe even if the breath can become so relaxed, there's a little bit of noise. So in. Keeping that breath rate going. Using the timer as a reminder if you want. Seeing if you can allow the jaw and the face to rest back, to release. Just keeping the breath deep and long. If you're still doing it just with the arm, that's okay. Just trying to get the breath to reach out and slow down. Just checking again, is the belly moving? Can you let those muscles relax and release? Let the jaw and the face relax and release. Can the breath be noisy? A little bit of whisper in the back of the throat, like when you're sleeping. Just keeping that going. That breath rate. 6 in and 6 out. Trying to release tension as you breathe out. Trying to make it as little effort as possible to keep this breath rate going. Just going to keep it going for a little bit longer. Just a few more rounds. And in a moment, I'm gonna turn the beeping off, and then it's entirely up to you if you want to keep that breath rate, count yourself, or to let it go. Just see what happens. Is it useful to keep going, swelling the belly, releasing it down? Even counting 6 in your own mind. It might be that your breath starts to just come back to whatever your natural is. And if you never quite manage to get it and you were just keeping time with the arm, that's okay. That's okay. It's just something to start practicing, seeing if we can let that swell happen to that particular count. Just now I'm going to take your attention to a few different places in the body really quickly, really briefly. Your mind's like a spotlight. When I name a place in the body, your mind is going to sort of shine its spotlight there. You might not feel any sensation in that part of the body. You might feel a lot of sensation. It might be good, it might be bad, there might be pain, there might be nothing. All of that is absolutely okay. And there really is nothing to gain or achieve. We're just going to have a little look around the body. So just taking the attention down into your right leg. So your whole right leg from the hip all the way down to the toes. Taking your attention into your whole left leg. So from the hip all the way down the left leg into the foot to the tip of the toes. And seeing if you can then take your attention to both the left and right leg at the same time. Equal attention, both legs, from the hips, down the thighs to the knees, down the calves to the ankles, into both feet, all your 10 toes. You have 10 toes. And then taking the attention into the right arm, from the shoulder all the way down the right arm into the right hand. And then swinging your mind's focus to the left arm, from the shoulder all the way down into the left hand. And then both arms resting on the floor, on your belly, wherever they are. Both arms resting here. From the shoulders, down the upper arms to the elbows, lower arms, wrists, hands, and all of your fingers. Both arms resting equally. And then noticing the back of the head resting against the floor, the cushion, blanket or a towel. And the front of the head, the face, the whole of the face. And the whole head, front and back. And the neck, front and back. Noticing the front of the chest and the back, where the shoulder blades meet the floor. Noticing that whole upper part of your torso resting against the floor, front and back. And then noticing the whole abdomen, the whole belly that can breathe and be full. And then the back, the waist, the lower back, the mid-back, bottom of the ribs. The front and the back. The whole right side of your body, from the top of your head to the tips of your fingers, down your torso and leg to the tips of your right toes. And the whole left side of the body, top of the head, down the arm, tips of the fingers. down the left side of the torso, left leg, left toes. The whole left and right sides of the body together, equal, resting here. The whole body resting on the floor, breathing. And you might wish to stay where you are. You're in your own space. You can stay there for as long as you like. Or you might wish to begin a gentle movement, coming back awake into the world, leaving that fight state, that agitation in the floor, in the ground. And maybe rolling over onto one side, maybe blinking your eyes open if they were closed, and maybe beginning to sit up and have a look around the space that you're in, whatever pace and speed feels comfortable for you.